Hi,
Hi.
Will.
I apologize that I am so late. We were doing some press. Corey and Jerry and I were doing some press earlier today.
Oh, I
Um,
see.
yeah, and there was a technical issue that pushed everything back about 25 minutes. So I apologize for being late, but I am here now and I'm so happy to talk to you.
I'm so happy to talk to you as well. I'm so honored to talk to you. Uh, I wanted to share my personal experience of like the first time I seen this Stand By Me on the theater in Japan.
Okay. Okay.
Even though I watched like several times on actually TV, but I never watched up until like probably 17 or 18 years old. That was the first time like I watched a week after the River Phoenix was passed away.
Okay.
I watched Stand By Me in uh, a double feature theater called Bungeza in Ikebukuro, where the lots of actually theaters actually run. I was watching a film with like mostly consists of like a female actually audience,
Okay.
and like when it's hit to the close to the end, the River Phoenix characters, Chris was died because he
Mhm.
was stabbed, and it kind of overlapped with actually River Phoenix is no longer with us.
Yeah.
And it was so devastating me and it hit me so hard by that time. And even credits was running. None of the actually female audience stood up. Just they just listened to the Benny King song.
Yeah.
So emotionally. I never had that similar experience in the theater. It was so magical to me. Even still today, I still remember that actually film. So yeah, just thank you for you guys.
Oh,
So
thank you. When I was a little boy,
mhm,
um, my mom forced me to go to work and become an actor when I was 7.
mhm,
And I was so young
right,
that I was just doing what I was told to do.
right.
But after about a year, I didn't like it. I just wanted to be a kid who went to school and played with my friends and and was a big brother in my family. And my mom would not let me be a kid. She was very manipulative, very controlling.
Mm,
My father was my first bully.
mm,
My father was cruel to me until the day I told him I could no longer have him in my life when I was 46.
wow.
And I lived in a house where my parents really loved my brother and
Hmm.
my sister, and they treated me like I was not part of the family. They treated
Wow.
me like I was there to work for them,
Uh-huh.
and I just wanted my dad to love me.
Right.
And my mom made me believe that if I kept being an actor,
Mhm.
that that was the way it was going to happen. So by the time I'm 12 and I go to audition for Stand By Me, I was a sad kid. I was sad. I was lonely. I was scared all the time. And I was invisible in my house and I wanted to be loved,
Wow.
just like Gordy.
Yes.
Gordy really wanted his dad to love him. Gordy really wanted his mom to see him. Gordy loved his brother, and his brother was the only person in his family who really saw what was special about Gordy, which is that Gordy's a storyteller.
Mm,
My great aunt
mm,
is the person in my family who saw what was special in me. She saw that I was a storyteller. She saw that I liked to use my imagination, and she really encouraged that in me. I didn't know any of this when we were making Stand By Me. When something that abused kids are real good at doing is hiding how much pain we are in.
Mm,
Really, really good at even hiding it from ourselves.
mm,
And it wasn't until years later, I mean, years later, decades later, I must have been in my 30s
mm,
when I sat down and honestly looked at the movie and honestly looked at myself and went through everything that I knew to be true. And it was crazy to me that that was something I had not seen before, that I was not aware of. And Corey's beautiful in this movie because he was in so much pain and he was so angry. River is flawless in this movie because
mm,
he was a boy who had been failed by every adult around him. He was abused too. And
mm,
he hid that from everybody. And he wanted to go someplace just like Chris Chambers, where
mm,
he could just be who he wanted to be. And Jerry was this delightful, funny, so funny. He still is.
mhm,
He's such a funny man. We all came together supported by a director who
mm,
talked to us like we were actors when none of us had any idea what we were doing. We were too young to know technique. And he helped us make emotional connections to our characters. And he helped us keep our scenes simple and honest. And it's why we're talking about this movie 40 years later. Sure. The way that I remember it, this might not be exactly accurate, but the way that I remember it, I went to just a regular audition.
mhm,
My agent said, Rob Reiner is making a Stephen King movie. I knew who Rob Reiner was. I loved All in the Family. I
mhm,
knew who Stephen King was. I was only 11, but I'd already read Night Shift. I thought it was great.
mhm,
And I was excited about that. Even at that age, I didn't want to just go act on something because it was there. I wanted to make good art. I knew that. I didn't have the words to express that, but I knew it in my heart. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to tell a good story. So when I read the script and I was just a kid, but I loved it. This was a story about friends. This was a story about people who show up for each other, who are reliable and dependable. And I didn't have that in my life. And I thought, oh, if I could be in this movie, I would at least know what that feels like for some amount of time. So I went to audition, and it was Rob and Ray and Bruce and Andy Scheinman. And I did my audition. And when we were all finished, Rob said, I'm going to bring you back to read you with some other actors, but it's probably going to be a few months because we're going to go out. We're going all over the country. I'm auditioning every kid that I can for this role. And I was like, okay. And some time went by and I forgot about it. And
mhm,
then there was the phone call. Rob Reiner is back and wants to see you. And okay. So I went for that audition, and that was the first time I saw River. And I remember Sean Astin was there. I remember
mhm.
Ethan Hawke was there.
Isa was there
Uh,
too? Huh.
Scott Grimes was there. All of us, every actor of my generation auditioned for this movie.
Mm,
And and they started bringing us in two at a time, four at a time, mixing up the combinations. And at the end of that, someone, I don't remember who it was, said, we're going to bring you back for a screen test.
mhm,
And I didn't know what that meant. Um, I didn't know that that meant I was so close to being cast in the movie, you know. Um, I went to my agent's office and practiced the scenes and rehearsed the scenes, and she helped me make make really simple choices and be committed to them. And I remember I can't remember if this happened when I was walking out of the Stand By Me screen test or if this happened when I walked out of the network test for Star Trek. But there was a producer, and I don't remember who it was. A producer came over to me and said, and commented on the shoes that I was wearing. I don't
Oh,
remember what they were. And he said, "Are those your lucky shoes?" And I
uh,
was like, "I mean, they're my shoes. I don't have lucky shoes." And he was like, "Are you sure they're not your lucky shoes?" Yeah, I don't think that I have. He must have asked me 3 or 4 times. And he was trying to tell me, "You got the movie, kid. You're in the movie, right?" But he couldn't say it. I had no idea what it meant.
I see.
Um, I am still friends with Sean Astin. We've been friends ever since. In 1990, we came to Japan to do a press tour
Oh,
for our movie Toy Soldiers.
Toy
And
Soldier.
when we were in Japan for that press tour, we got to go to a theater where some young Japanese actors were doing Stand By Me as a play.
Oh,
And I
really?
got to take my picture with the cast. I got to meet the young man who was playing Gordy.
Great.
And I got to watch a little bit of their rehearsal. And I don't speak Japanese, but boy, the emotion was so clear. I knew exactly what scenes they were doing. It was
Wow.
such a memorable and wonderful experience. In 2001, I saw Sean and I was like, God, I'm so jealous that you got to be in Lord of the Rings. And Sean says immediately, you don't ever get to tell me that you're jealous of anything because you got Stand By Me and I didn't. And I was like, oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right, fair enough.
that's true. Fair enough, right?
By the time I had done Stand By Me, by the time I was on the set for Stand By Me, I had done a lot of television. I'd done some after school specials. I'd done a couple of television pilots. I'd been in a couple of movies. A very common experience in all of those jobs were directors who treated me like a thing. They
Mm,
never talked to me like I was a person. They never asked me what I thought. They never asked me how I felt about scenes. They sort of gave me line readings and expected me to just do it.
mm.
They would pull me around, grab me by the elbow, and move me around instead of just saying, "Hey, could you go stand over there?"
Right,
It felt disrespectful. It was
right.
scary, and it never felt safe. I always felt like I was on the verge of getting in trouble. I was always afraid. When I went to work on Stand By Me, from the very first day we got to location in Oregon, Rob made it safe.
Mm,
He created an environment where we could take chances and it didn't then and we could try things with our acting choices and it was fine. It wasn't a test. My experience is it was always a test. Like I was just so worried that the director was going to yell at me or that I was going to get fired or and then I was going to go home and I was going to get in trouble. Rob made sure that each of us knew that we were worthy, that we deserved to be there. And he talked to us like we were people with experiences and emotions, and that we were actors who were telling a story. And
mm,
that was the huge difference. And that is why I think, in addition to his incredibly insightful casting of 4 kids who were those characters, he created an environment where we were very much supported
mm,
to be the kids who we were saying the lines that were in the script. And if we stumbled off into what, as a 12-year-old, you think is a strong acting choice, but is not, the
mm,
way Rob brought that all back around was to come to whoever, like if he came to me and just quietly just ask me questions. Hey, Will, how does Gordy feel about this right now? What does Gordy think about that when he's in Denny's room and Denny's not there? What
mm,
does he miss? And how does that feel? He asked me questions like that. Those are the questions that I ask myself when I'm breaking down a script, when I'm understanding a scene, when I'm going through rehearsal, when I'm writing. I look for the emotional truth in the scene. And if I get stuck and I get stuck on a piece of dialogue and I'm going over it over and over again as an actor and as a writer, always it's because something there isn't true.
mm,
And to get to the truth, I ask myself to this day the same questions Rob asked me. I didn't I didn't know what he was doing when he was doing it.
Mm,
All I knew was that I felt like I was a creative partner. I felt like we were on the same team. And I just had never felt like that. I
mm,
always felt like I was going to get in trouble. I always felt like I was messing up somehow. And and Rob, like, he would thank us after takes. He would come over and tell us that we did that we did a good job. There's a story that you may have heard when we're Jerry and I are running away from the train across the bridge.
mm,
And on the day that we were filming it, it was very, very hot that day.
mm.
Um, it was a big day. There was a lot going on the set that day. I remember there was a lot of energy, right? It was exciting. It's a huge steam train and it's moving forwards and backwards, and we're running away from it, and it's a big moment. And I was acting. I was acting my little heart out, right? I was really acting that I was afraid, but I wasn't. I was acting, and everybody could see it. And after we did a bunch of takes,
Mm.
and after each one, Rob said, "You guys, I'm not feeling it. I'm not believing you." Right? Like, we have to go again. By like the fourth time, Rob cut the camera and he came out from behind the monitors where he was watching it, and he pulled his headphones off and he ripped his baseball hat off. And for the first and last time in my life, Rob Reiner yelled at us. He yelled at Jerry, and he was like, "You guys, you guys are fucking up my movie. It's hot and we're tired. And these men," and he points to the grips who are dripping with sweat, who are moving the dolly back and forth on the train tracks.
Wow.
These men are tired and they're working hard. Everyone's working hard. And I don't believe that you're afraid. If you're not afraid of that train killing you, then you better be afraid that I'm going to kill you. If you're not afraid of that train, then fucking be afraid of me. And Jerry and I looked at each other and we were like, "Oh my God, we made Rob mad." And we burst into tears. And I saw out of the corner of my eye, I saw Rob lean to Irby, the first AD, and go, "Roll the camera, roll the camera, roll the
Wow.
camera." And then he goes, "Action." And we run. The next shot that you see us crying that's the shot that's in the movie. That
Wow.
was the very next take. We ran away from the train. Jerry and I ran off the tracks, past the camera, and into Rob Reiner's arms.
Uh,
Rob put his arms around both of us. He kissed me on the head. He kissed Jerry on the head. And he said, "I'm so sorry. That
wow.
was wonderful. You
Mm,
guys are so good. Thank you." And
mm,
I couldn't stop crying. And I
wow.
walked over to Ray Gideon, the screenwriter and producer, who had been such a lovely man and such a friend and mentor to me, still is a friend to me. And he put his arms around me and he held me and let me cry until I was done crying.
Wow. That's such a great story.
Yeah. We shot that toward the end of production.
Mm,
Um, Kids are not allowed to shoot overnight, so we
right.
couldn't shoot outdoors. So I remember it being an old lumber mill or maybe an old paper mill, that there was a big warehouse area, and they blacked out all the windows and they built a sound stage, made it into a sound stage, and brought in tons of dirt and brought in trees in pots that they put all over the place. And uh, we started out shooting the conversations around the campfire, what's goofy and wagon train and that stuff. And then we shot me telling my side of the Lard Ass Hogan story. And then
Mm,
it was time to shoot the stuff up at the tree. And we went up there to shoot River's scene, and Rob cleared everybody off the set except for the cinematographer and the assistant director, Rob, River, and me. And we rehearsed the scene, and River was having a very hard time connecting to the emotions of the scene, and he said it just doesn't feel real. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what's real. It doesn't feel real. And I remember Rob put his arm around him and he said, was there ever a time in your personal life that you can remember, you don't have to tell me what it is, when an adult really let you down? When you needed an adult to help you or protect you? And I saw tears come up into River's eyes. And he said, do you remember when you needed that and it wasn't there? And River blinked and tears fell down his face and he nodded. He said, uh-huh. And Rob said, maybe think about that. Because that's what this scene is about for Chris. Old
Mm,
Lady Simons let him down. And River said, okay. And we went back into the set. And
mm,
the very next take is the take that's in the movie.
wow.
I remember River crying, and he cried in a way that I cried when we're at the body together,
Mm,
which was from a place that wasn't acting. It was from a place of real pain and real loss.
mm,
What I know now is that River was failed by the adults around him. I know now that River was exploited and abused, and none of us knew that.
mm,
And it's it's hard to watch that scene in particular and see my friend who's no longer with us,
right.
who didn't get to live past 23.
Mm,
And here I am, 53 years old, almost 54, and I'm looking at the 15-year-old who was larger than life to me,
mm,
who was the older brother I always wanted, who was the team captain I always wanted to play for, who was such a strong, steady, calming influence on all of us.
mm,
That is how I remember him. And I'm an adult and I'm a father. And I look at that little boy now and my heart breaks every time that I
mm,
see that little, I remember this young man who was so big, and
mm,
I see a little boy who was big because he had to be.
right.
And it hurts my heart every time I see him.
Wow.
I have never met Stephen King.
Wow.
I want to very, 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 very much.
Right.
I've never had the opportunity. Hopefully someday it will happen. When
Oh,
I narrated, I'm doing this a little out of order. When I finished narrating The Body, I asked the producer, who works with Stephen King all
mhm,
the time. I said, if I were to write a note to Stephen King, could you get it to him for me? Like, could you guarantee that he would read it? And she said, yeah, I can do that. I can't guarantee you that he'll reply. And I said, I don't care. I just want to know that I can tell him what he means to me. Um, he's been telling the world what I mean to him
mm,
when he promotes this book online and he talks about it and when he talks about it in press. And it just, I have to stop every time because it's wonderful.
mm,
Here's how this all came together. I knew the 40th anniversary of Stand By Me was coming up. I knew this a couple of years ago. For 2 years, my creative team and my business team and I tried to get someone from Simon and Schuster to say yes. I was like, hey, I want to narrate this. I
mhm,
will pay for it. I will license it. Tell me what to do. I know that this is important. This is a rare opportunity
so
to
true.
do this. I grew up to become Gordy LeChance. I am a writer now. When I am not narrating audiobooks, when I'm not hosting my podcast, I am writing, and I write a lot, and I tell lots of stories. I tell stories because there's a lot of pain inside of me that needs to go someplace, and I
Mhm,
need to tell stories about it to help work it all out, just like Gordy did. Um, so for years, well-meaning people have said, would you ever record the narration and Stand By Me and put it online, and like then we could, put it in ourselves, and it can be you telling the story. And I said, and I've always said, I thank you, that's very sweet, but that's disrespectful to Rick Dreyfuss, who did a real great job with that
Yeah.
narration. I would never dream of stepping on his toes. But I'm an audiobook narrator. And
Wow.
I'm a New York Times #1 best-selling audiobook narrator more than once. That counts for something. I
Right.
probably have, I at least get the opportunity to ask, can I do this? After 2 years, they said yes.
Mm.
And I was so excited. Um, I work with a terrific director. Her name is Gabrielle DeCure, and she directs my podcast, and she's directed almost every book that I've narrated. We've been recognized by our peers several times for our work together. We do really, really good work together. I was so excited to work with her to do the body and narrate that story. And we did it over the course of a few days, and it was so much fun. The novella is a bit darker than the movie. It's more sad than the movie. It's more intense and unresolved than the movie. And I knew that as I was going into it. So I was able to bring my own experience as an adult to the narration with 40 years of memories of having been that kid and
Mm.
having experienced everything that happens in that novella firsthand because of the movie. I had so many emotional memories to draw on. The only other thing I've narrated that was as close to me emotionally was my memoir. And that is just because I have so much in common with this character. I think it was last summer, Jerry texted me. He said, a friend of mine has been doing these shows. I can't remember what cast he was doing, but maybe it was National Lampoon's Vacation or something. I can't remember what it was, but he said they've been doing these screenings. They're really fun. Some of the cast goes out, the audience watches the movie all together, then there's a Q&A afterward, some reminiscing, some memories, then there's a little reception afterwards with photos and things. And um, he said, Jerry said, I think it would be a lot of fun if we went together, all of us, and did this show, right? If we did that kind of show.
Hmm.
Um, and and I said, that, yeah, that actually sounds really great. That sounds like something I would love to do. And we had a creative meeting. I had a creative meeting with Mills, the producers.
Mm.
And then we had a creative meeting with all of us together. And then we just had to figure out when we could all get together and where we could go. And it's been really special. It's been so memorable. Every night has been just such a gift to sit with these audiences that love the movie and are experiencing it together for the first time in 40 years.
Mm.
Um, and then the three of us having the privilege of being on stage together
Mm.
to share our memories and remember our experiences. It's been a real special and really wonderful experience.
Wow.
There was a time in my life where I wanted to get out of the shadow of Stand By Me.
Mm.
And then there was a time in my life when I realized I'm not in Stand By Me's shadow. I'm standing on Stand By Me's shoulders.
Mm.
There's nothing to run away from. There's nothing to prove to anybody. There is a wonderful work of art to celebrate that genuinely, truly matters
Mm.
to generations of people, as you said, all over the world. Rob Reiner would tell a story about meeting someone when Stand By Me was still in theaters in 1986. And this person said, I love your movie. It reminds me so much of my friends and me when we were kids. And Rob said, oh, did you grow up in the woods? Did you grow up in Oregon or Maine? And he said, no, I lived in Manhattan. I lived in New York City. And Rob said that that's when he knew he had made a movie that was about was about experiences that everyone had.
Mhm.
It was about the friendships that we all have. It was about the relationships with our families that everybody struggles through. It was about the friendships that we cherish for the rest of our lives, even if they only last for a few years.
Mhm.
When I came to Japan in 1990 for the first time, and I discovered I had no idea that American culture and Japanese culture are so different.
Mhm.
But the experiences that we have as human beings, that experience that we have with our friends and our families, it doesn't matter what language we speak, what our cultural history is. It doesn't matter where in the world we live. These are experiences we all have. That's such a wonderful reminder about how connected humanity is.
Mhm.
We have so many shared experiences, and the way that we fight with each other and the way that we look for differences is so foolish. We have so much in common, and we tell the same stories and we respond to the same art, and we have the same fears and the same dreams and the same love. And I have changed over 4 decades
Mhm.
from kind of moving into a place where I'm just so grateful for that privilege. I'm so grateful to be part of a work of art that matters in very specific ways to people from all over our planet in ways that nothing else inspires.
Mhm.
Stand By Me has really helped me. It taught me how to be grateful. And Rob Reiner showed me when I did not know that inside of me is a really great artist.
Mhm.
Inside of me is a storyteller and a creator. And like Chris says to Gordy in the movie, your parents can't see that, but I can. Your parents don't see how special you are, but I do. And I'm going to keep telling you how special you are until you believe it. Stand By Me did that for me. Rob
Mhm.
Reiner did that for me.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. I think if you asked a random actor, they would tell you, oh, yeah, I would love to have a movie like Stand By Me at
Mhm.
some point in my career. And I'm so lucky that it's been there the whole time. It's
Right.
where I started. I don't have to chase it. I can love that it was there.
Well, I had such a pleasure talking to you. It's such an honor talking to you. I mean,
Oh,
I
thank you so
originally from
much.
Japan, come to United States to learn English and study the actually film, and finally get to talk to you like guys like you. So it's been a pleasure to talking to you, Will.
Oh, it's such an honor. It's a
Yes.
real honor and and a pleasure talking to you. I hope to make it back to Japan someday.
Yeah,
I
please
had
do.
a wonderful time when I was there.
Okay.
And I would love to actually get out of the city a little bit and see some of the countryside.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time, Will. And
Yeah, you're welcome. Take care.
have a good day, sir. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.